This is a hole in a human skull. Someone cut it on purpose thousands of years ago while the person was wide awake. And here's the part that stops you. They lived. That is not a crack from a fall or a wound from a fight. Someone opened this skull deliberately and carefully. In other words, this is surgery done in the Stone Age. It has a name: trepanation, cutting or scraping a hole clean through the bone of the skull. And as far as we can tell, it is the oldest operation in all of human history. The oldest ones go back nearly 10,000 years. We have found them in North Africa, in Ukraine, and in Portugal, long before the first cities, and far, far older than the pyramids. Now remember what they did not have: no anesthetic, no antibiotics, and no idea that germs even existed. Everything about that should end with a dead patient. So did it? Before we get to how, there is a stranger question. How could anyone today know whether a patient survived 7,000 years after the surgery? You cannot exactly ask them. The answer is hiding in the bone. Living bone heals, cut it, and a fresh edge stays sharp and raw. But if the person keeps living, that edge slowly rounds off and grows smooth over the months. So the skull keeps its own record. A sharp, raw hole means the patient died on the table. A smooth, healed hole means they got up and walked away. And here's what shocks people. Most of the holes we find are the healed kind. Surviving this was not a lucky fluke, it was the normal outcome. It was not one strange village either. Skulls with these holes turn up on every inhabited continent: Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Different peoples who never met all worked it out on their own. Which brings us back to the part your body flinches at. How do you open a living human head and have the patient get up and walk away? Slowly, and in a few different ways. Some surgeons scraped, grinding a sharp flint back and forth until the bone simply wore through. And do not picture a blunt rock. A flake of black volcanic glass, called obsidian, can hold an edge finer than a modern steel scalpel. In the right hands, these were precision blades. Others carved a small square and lifted the piece out. And some drilled a ring of tiny holes in a circle, then cut across the gaps until the disc came free. But the real genius is where they stopped. Just under the bone sits the dura, a tough leathery membrane wrapped around the brain. They lifted the bone off and left that membrane alone. That one habit is probably why so many lived. Cut through into the brain and the patient dies. Stop at the membrane and you have opened the skull without wrecking the person inside. Now put yourself in the chair. You are awake, and people you know are holding you still. There is a piece of wood clamped in your teeth, and the slow grind of stone on bone that goes on for an hour or more. And when it was finally over, the bone slowly closed. Some of these patients went on to live for years, even decades, with a neat healed window in their skull. The scrape of stone had become just another scar. So, were they actually good at this, or just lucky? For the answer, look at the people who did it most. The Inca, high in the mountains of Peru. Scientists have now studied around 800 of their skulls. The survival rate came back at roughly 80%. 80. That is a better survival rate than the very same surgery in the American Civil War, 5,000 years later. Stone Age surgeons working with a sharpened stone were beating trained doctors who had steel tools in hospitals because those doctors kept killing patients with infected hands. The primitive caveman you were picturing just vanished. Of course, not everyone made it, but the ones who died usually did not die on the table. They died days later from infection creeping into the wound. The cut was survivable. The germs were the real enemy. And it gets stranger. Some patients came back for more. We find skulls with 2 holes, then 3, and one that carries 7 separate openings, every single one of them healed. 7 times, someone let a surgeon open their skull, and 7 times they recovered and came back. Whatever this did for them, they trusted it enough to return. And there is one stranger clue still. In France, someone found a cow skull, 5,000 years old, with a hole cut the very same way. Maybe they practiced on animals first, or maybe they were even trying to save the cow. There is one last detail that is hard to shake. That little disc of bone they cut out often was not thrown away. It was polished smooth, sometimes drilled through, and worn, a piece of a person's own skull, carried like a charm. All of which leaves the biggest question of all. After all that skill and all that risk, why cut the hole in the first place? And honestly, we are still not sure. The strongest clue is, once again, in the bone. A surprising number of these holes sit right on top of an old injury, a skull caved in by a club, a rock, or a hard fall. That points to emergency surgery. Relieve the pressure building under the bone, and lift out the shattered pieces before they kill. Seen that way, the hole is not madness, it is a rescue. But some holes sit on perfectly healthy skulls, with no injury at all. Maybe those were for seizures, for headaches that never stopped, or even for spirits and rites we can barely guess at. Honestly, we may never know them all. So remember this one thing. The caveman who was too simple to think, that person never existed. Our ancestors watched, they learned, and they operated on each other with a care that lasted thousands of years. And that smooth, healed bone is really a message. It is a Stone Age patient reaching across 10,000 years to tell you one plain thing: I made it. Which makes you wonder, what else did they figure out that we have quietly forgotten?